Have you heard that 4 international news agencies, they have predicted that there is going to be a violent revolution in Nigeria? Anyway, before I go into that, I want to show you what happened the other day. A repentant Boko Haram, somebody that the government integrated into the army, stealing guns and other valuable materials from the army, and after stealing all these things, he will now go and give these things to other terrorists in the bush. And you tell me that the government that integrated these people into the army are not part of this process?
Last company be this so at 17 it is ammunition. Oh, but talk waiting
it's still my ammunition. That one not one. It's still my SF clothes. That one not one. It's still my fragmental jacket.
Muna see na 17
like this now.
You say 4 magazine.
This thing by you
4 magazine. 4 magazine 9. All of us.
If I'm no forward. If I'm no forward.
The same unit to the same 35 battalion. One of us. All of us. 35 battalion. We don't lose guard.
Brigade.
See
under AD.
See mo. Senior man, last couple of Nigerian army.
This army don't do anything.
What is it for you?
Na magazine.
It is your magazine. Yes, it is your magazine. 30 rounds. 30 rounds loaded. They are mountain inside jacket. You go sell and go give bandits. See you go sell and go give bandits. And now follow soldier. We go think say now follow soldier. We know say na enemy way you. See ya. Issue.
So back to the international media agencies that predicted that there's going to be a violent protest, violent revolution in Nigeria. I want you to listen to what this guy did, because he did justice to that. And after that, I will give my 2 cents. Just pay attention.
The last one was day before yesterday. That was on Friday. An Italian newspaper published this. And this is what it reads. In Nigeria, un autunno molto caldo. What it means in Nigeria, an autumn that is very hot. An autumn is a weather, it's like an atmospheric condition. Like we have summer, we have rainy season in Nigeria. And autumn is another season. I know that you know about that. Now, but there is a connotation to this newspaper. And I think you should go and Google it and read the translated version of it. Very important. Now, what a hot autumn means in Italian language is that something happened in Italy a very long time ago, and that is what I want to explain to you. In the year 1969, hot autumn means a revolutionary period. It is a period in the history of the Italian Republic marked by workers' union struggles that developed from the autumn of 1969 in Italy. From this, social movement was born, the worker status. So, when the newspaper report that there is a very hot autumn in Nigeria, it means there will be, or there is, a violent uprising in Nigeria. Now, I want to run this newspaper for you, the translated version. Now, as I explained to you the meaning of hot autumn, it means a revolutionary period. And I explained to you the connotation of it in Italian language. Now, let me read the articles. It reads that, what happened when the minimum wage is halved? And when the cost of gasoline and electricity increase suddenly? What happens when education is underfunded, unemployment skyrockets, and basic goods becomes unaffordable? This is the situation in Nigeria, the most populous country in Africa, and a nation that was until recently one of the strongest economies on the continent. But now the situation is more complicated, and young people are at the forefront of protests. Youth have taken to the streets demanding more investment in education and a decent minimum wage. They are ready to restart their protests despite government repression. A week of protests began in the mid-August and was sparked by the government's decision to remove fuel subsidies. This move led to a sharp increase in the price of gasoline, which more than doubled from one day to the next, creating a ripple effect in the cost of goods and services. The middle and working class have been hit the hardest, with many finding it difficult to afford basic necessities. Fuel is central to daily life in Nigeria, not only for transportation but also for power generation, as electricity from the national grid is unreliable. With the subsidy removed, citizens are forced to rely on expensive generators for power, further adding to their expenses. Meanwhile, unemployment is soaring, especially among the youth, and inflation is out of control, making even basic goods like food and medicine hard to come by. The Nigerian government's promises of reform has not alleviated the crisis, leading to widespread dissatisfaction. In Lagos, one of the major cities in Nigeria. There have been massive protests with demonstrations chanting slogans against the government and calling for action on education, unemployment, and cost of living. The protesters are determined, even in the face of police repression and arrest. They insist on the need of a decent minimum wage and investment in the education sector. Despite the derailed economic situation, some sectors have benefited from government reforms, particularly the financial sector. But for the majority of Nigerians, life has become much more difficult. The government has urged that its reforms are necessary to balance the budgets and modernize the economy. But for the average citizen, these changes have meant more hardship. The article continues to the last paragraph. As the protests continue, the international community is keeping a close eye on Nigeria. The country's stability is critical not only for the region but also for the entire African continent. Whether the government will respond to the demands of the protesters remain to be seen, but it is clear that the discontent will not fade anytime soon. Lagos, August 2024, by Vincenzo Giardina.
That is what the international news agencies are predicting that is going to happen in Nigeria, and they listed the whole things that we are suffering in Nigeria, which means that they are aware of all of these things. Now, let me tell you, the place that got my attention is the place that they said that they are keeping an eye in Nigeria. They are keeping an eye on everything that is happening, and they said that it is not going to fade anytime soon. If you are following me in this in this channel, if you are following me, I have been telling you that Tinubu is just a tool that the Westerners are using to inflict pain on us. And what is it that they are doing? What they are doing is that they are using African nations as a testing ground, as in they are testing whatever it is that they want, because this wickedness that they are implementing in African nations, they are actually going to generalize it, because this is end time actually. So they are going to generalize these things that they are trying. But what they are doing is that they will, this is what we call predictive programming. They are predicting this. They just implement it, see how it goes before, so that they can now map out a way that they can be able to fight against it. They can be able to maintain it, how to see how people's reaction is going to be. You understand? That is what these guys are doing. So they use African nations as testing grounds. They will just test those things in Africa because they have imposed their leaders, as in our leaders, the people that they want to lead us. They will just impose them on us. You know exactly what happened in Nigeria. So when they use African nations as their testing ground, they can correct their mistake and know how they can be able to sustain that wickedness that they will impose, that they are going to generalize in the whole world. This is end times actually. So now what happens is that when our leaders are carrying out all these wicked policies and we continue to call out their names, just like Nigerians are shouting Tinubu. Tinubu is not our problem. It is the Western nations that put him there, that are using him. They are very much aware. So to tell you that they are very much aware of what is going on in Nigeria, you see what they said here? They said they are keeping eye on Nigeria, which means that they are using, this is what they do. We tell you this thing. If you are following me in this channel, I tell you these things always. These people are wicked. This is what they are using our leaders that they impose on us to do. So just like the way they tested cashless economy in Nigeria during the regime of Buhari, they tested it and it stopped. It is not that it has stopped. What they are doing, they paused it so that they can be able to make their corrections. You understand? And when next that this cashless economy, this cashless policy is coming back, it is coming to stay, because by that time they must have, they have seen the way people reacted to that, and they must have put their measures in place to sustain it. Before you now see this cashless policy taking place in places like Canada, US, and all these, that will now sustain it. This is end time. This is what this wicked, when we hear about this, some people are taking this things for granted. This is real, happening before our very eyes. This is real. So they have tested the cashless policy, and when next time it's coming back, it is coming to stay, and there is nothing you will do about it. There is nothing anybody will do about it, and I bet you it is coming back. And also because of the fact that Nigeria is easier for them. I mean, if you compare other African nations, Nigerians, they can adjust to any situation. They can adjust to it. So Nigeria makes it easier for them compared to other African nations. Listen, you saw what happened in Kenya the other day. So in most of African nations, they cannot try this nonsense because they know that youths will revolt against it. But Nigerians knows how to adjust. That is the reason why, because actually they have our president they are so greedy to the extent that they have them in their pockets. They can't do anything. So they are using Nigeria because Nigeria is very, very easier for them to carry out their wickedness.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, today petrol is selling across Nigeria for an average of 1,000 naira per litre. Value-added tax is climbing to 10%. According to latest news from the government, inflation is above 30%. The naira is exchanging at 1,650 naira. But one thing is certain, Nigerians will adjust. The Nigerian ability to adjust to pain is mysterious. And that's all we do. We adjust. It's our blessing and our curse. It's the thing that makes us able to thrive in any part of the world and come out on top in comparison to other people around us. But yet, it is our biggest curse. It's the curse that makes us find excuses to understand why we continue to suffer, no matter how bad it is. That curse will make you adjust and never actually demand an end to your suffering. If the great Fela Kuti was alive today, he would have made another suffering and smiling song, if you remember. A remix will be due in 2024. Now, those elected into office are not bothered because you are Nigerian and you will adjust. Those elected into government will continue to gather so much so they never get to feel your pain. They will stay in government and fund a life of dreams for their families, send their children to school abroad, buy houses abroad, even buy new citizenships for themselves in choice countries around the world. But you, the average Nigerian, who stood in the rain and sun to vote these people into office, you will adjust. Yes, you will. Your earnings will remain the same year after year and tenure after tenure. Your salary and your earnings will remain the same or even lose value to inflation. But the Nigerian in you will adjust. Some will even have time to be tribal bigots while they adjust. You will have time and mental space to know who is Yoruba and who is Igbo and who is Fulani and who is from Abakaliki. But the Nigerian spirit in you will never actually say enough is enough. Instead, you will adjust. There's nothing like being pushed to the wall for the average Nigerian. The average Nigerian will move from eating 3 meals a day to eating twice and to even eating once a day if you're fortunate enough. And the average Nigerian will convince himself that they don't even need to eat that much because you are busy. Yes, you will adjust. And a few months later, you will be pushed again to the wall with new taxes. The wall in Nigerian context is elastic, so you never really fight back because there's always space for you to make adjustments to more suffering. There's space. In the last few weeks, there have been stories of dozens murdered or kidnapped in Sokoto and Zamfara state. Those lives are not less important than the lives in other parts of Nigeria. And we all know that our government is failing in its most important task, the security of lives and property. Businesses are failing. Nigerians can't afford food or transportation. But as our fellow Nigerians mourn their loved ones in Sokoto and Zamfara and some of all those states, and as Nigerians are introduced to new taxes and the most expensive petrol in our history, once again, we will adjust and adjust and adjust. Because that's all we do and is what we are good at. Good morning, Nigerians.
Thoughts. Please be respectful with your comments. Also, please click the like, click the notification bell, and subscribe to this channel.